Imagine this. You just shared a personal thought, a secret, or even a tiny piece of your soul with someone you trust. Now, think about how it feels when that secret somehow gets out. Maybe it's spoken by someone else, or worse, misused against you. Can you remember that sting? The loss of control, the vulnerability that comes when your inner world is exposed to others. Now, here's the question. Why do we share things we know might not be safe to share? In a world that's constantly urging us to speak up, to express, to be seen, how often do we stop and ask ourselves, should I really share this? What happens when we let our guard down and open up too freely? Let me ask you another question. Have you ever found yourself regretting sharing something important, something private, only to have it twist into something completely different once it leaves your lips? That feeling of regret, betrayal, or even embarrassment, it's real. And in the teachings of Buddhism, there's wisdom that can protect us from these very moments, guiding us toward greater peace and understanding. Let's think about it through a simple example. You have a small treasure, something meaningful, something you hold dear. Would you hand it over to someone without knowing they'll respect its value, its worth? Likely, you'd be cautious. Your words, too, are treasures. Treat them with the same care. The idea of sharing everything may sound liberating, but Buddhism teaches us that silence and restraint often bring greater peace. Welcome to Wisdom Writings. In this video, we will explore profound insights from Buddhism that teach us not to share certain things, not because we are secretive, but because doing so can harm our peace and the peace of others. If you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more insightful content like this. Please drop down your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what resonates with you. And remember, to stay positive through every step of this journey, comment Namo Buddhi below. Let's keep the wisdom flowing together and let this journey of understanding unfold. Stay with us. The next part is just as enlightening. The weight of words. Why silence can be wiser. There's an ancient saying, the tongue is like a sharp knife. It kills without drawing blood. In the hustle of life, when our minds are filled with thoughts and emotions, it's easy to let words flow without thinking. But just as a knife can hurt, so can our words. Every time we speak, we have the power to shape reality, not just for others, but for ourselves. In Buddhism, we learn that words are not just sounds. They carry energy. They create ripples in the world. Consider this. Have you ever spoken in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? Maybe you said something in anger or out of frustration, and once the words were out, they couldn't be taken back. How did it feel? Was there a sense of heaviness? A realization that the words you chose didn't reflect your true self? That feeling, that weight, is a reflection of how powerful words can be. They can build bridges, but they can also burn them. Silence, on the other hand, is a powerful tool. It's not just the absence of sound. It's the presence of peace, wisdom, and reflection. In the Buddhist tradition, we learn that speaking is an art. It requires mindfulness, intention, and a deep understanding of the moment. We don't just speak to fill the void or to be heard. We speak when it serves a purpose. In Buddhism, there's a concept called right speech. This is one of the key elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to living a life that leads to wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Right speech teaches us to speak truthfully, kindly, and with purpose. You see, words are like seeds. What you plant in the minds of others will grow, for better or worse. If you speak in haste, without thought or consideration, you may plant seeds of misunderstanding, hurt, or even anger. On the other hand, when you speak with care, with intention, and with kindness, you plant seeds of peace, understanding, and compassion. Words, then, are not just tools for communication. They are instruments of creation. Have you ever noticed how, in moments of silence, your mind becomes clearer? The noise of the world fades away, and you can hear your thoughts more clearly. In these moments of stillness, you may find that your true self emerges, unclouded by the chatter of everyday life. This is the power of silence. It's not emptiness, it's a space for growth. It's in silence that we find clarity, and in that clarity, we find wisdom. In Buddhism, there's a practice called noble silence. It's not about avoiding communication altogether, but rather about choosing silence when it's most beneficial. Silence allows us to listen to others, to our surroundings, and most importantly, to ourselves. When we listen deeply, we can discern what is truly important to say and what is better left unsaid. Noble silence helps us cultivate mindfulness, awareness, and emotional balance. Now, think about how often we speak without thinking. How many times have we shared something in confidence, only to see it spread like wildfire? Once the words leave our mouths, they're no longer under our control. They take on a life of their own. And sometimes that life is one that we never intended to create. Buddhism teaches us that while speaking is important, it's equally important to pause, to reflect, and to consider the consequences of our words before they are spoken. In our daily lives, we often find ourselves caught up in the need to be heard, to be understood, or to be acknowledged. We feel the urge to share our thoughts, to explain ourselves, or to defend our actions. But in doing so, we may inadvertently harm the very relationships we seek to strengthen. Sometimes, saying nothing is the most powerful thing we can do. When we remain silent, we create space for others to speak, to be heard, and to express themselves. We also give ourselves the opportunity to reflect on our own thoughts and feelings without the distraction of external noise. In the Buddhist teachings, silence is not a form of avoidance. It's a form of wisdom. When we choose silence, we are not ignoring the world around us. We are simply allowing ourselves to observe it without the interference of our own judgments or reactions. We are practicing mindfulness, and in doing so, we create a space where clarity and peace can flourish. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. Have you ever been in a conversation where you simply listened, without interrupting or offering your opinion, and found that the other person opened up in ways they hadn't before? When we choose silence, we show respect for others' thoughts and feelings. We give them the space they need to express themselves fully. This is a profound form of compassion, a gift that we can offer to those around us. There's another lesson here. The more we speak, the more we reveal about ourselves. Our words reflect our thoughts, our desires, our fears, and our beliefs. When we share everything, we leave little room for others to discover who we truly are. We become like an open book with no mysteries, no depth, no space for growth. Silence, on the other hand, creates a sense of mystery. It invites curiosity, understanding, and reflection. It gives us the opportunity to be more than the sum of our words. So, what happens when we constantly speak without considering the impact of our words? We risk losing the ability to connect with others on a deeper level. We become caught up in the noise of the world, unable to hear the quiet wisdom that lies within us. Silence allows us to step back from the chaos, to see things from a different perspective, and to approach life with greater mindfulness and awareness. In the practice of Buddhism, we learn that silence is not just about withholding information. It's about cultivating the ability to listen deeply, to reflect on our own thoughts, and to act with intention. When we choose silence, we are choosing peace over conflict, understanding over judgment, and wisdom over impulsiveness. It's not about saying nothing. It's about saying what is truly important when the time is right. Think about your daily interactions. How often do you feel the need to speak, to justify, to explain, or to defend yourself? How often do you find yourself sharing things that, in hindsight, you wish you hadn't? The lesson here is not to shut yourself off completely, but to recognize when silence is the most powerful response. By doing so, you protect not only your peace of mind, but also the integrity of your relationships. In the Buddhist tradition, we are taught to observe our thoughts before we act on them. We learn to recognize the moments when speaking is a form of attachment, a way of holding on to our ego. When we let go of the need to be heard, we allow ourselves to be present in the moment. We stop clinging to our thoughts and words, and we begin to live with greater freedom and clarity. Remember, The Buddha himself spoke of the importance of right speech, but he also emphasized that true wisdom comes not from speaking, but from listening. When we listen, we not only hear others, but we also hear ourselves. We tune in to the rhythm of our own thoughts, and in that space, we discover the wisdom that lies beyond words. As you move forward in life, take a moment to reflect on the power of silence. When in doubt, remember that sometimes saying nothing can be the most profound statement you make. Let your silence be a space for growth, for reflection, and for peace. In a world filled with noise, silence is a rare and precious gift. It's in that silence that we can truly hear the voice of wisdom within us, guiding us toward a life of greater peace, understanding, and compassion. Karma and confidentiality, the echoes of shared secrets. In the grand design of the universe, there's a concept that holds powerful sway over our lives, often unnoticed by our busy minds: karma. It's the simple yet profound idea that every action we take, every word we speak, every choice we make, sends ripples through the universe. These ripples return to us in ways we may not always understand, but they shape the course of our lives. When we share a secret with someone, we are making an offering. We trust that this piece of ourselves, whether it's a vulnerable emotion, a hidden desire, or a personal story, will be kept safe. In Buddhism, there's an understanding that our words, like our actions, have consequences. These consequences might not be immediate, but they are inevitable, just as the impact of a pebble thrown into water ripples outward. Think for a moment. When you reveal something personal, you're not only giving that person knowledge, but also an element of your energy. You are entrusting them with something important to you. This is where karma plays its role. When that person misuses or betrays that trust, the karma doesn't just affect them. It affects you too. The moment your secret is exposed or twisted, you are left with a sense of unease, a disturbance in your peace. The actions of others, yes, but also your own actions, the act of sharing something precious, create ripples. These ripples echo back to you in the form of regret, mistrust, or even anxiety. There's a Buddhist concept known as right speech. This is the practice of speaking in ways that avoid harm and foster peace. It is more than just saying the right things. It is about being mindful of the energy we share through our words. When we speak carelessly, when we share secrets or sensitive information without thinking of the consequences, we are not practicing right speech. Instead, we're opening ourselves to the law of karma. Each word we speak, each secret we share, sends vibrations into the universe. And these vibrations, sooner or later, come back to us, often in ways we don't expect. Think about it. Have you ever shared something with someone, only to later wish you hadn't? Perhaps that secret was passed along, perhaps it was misinterpreted, or maybe the person you confided in didn't fully respect the weight of what you had shared. You feel it, don't you? That sinking feeling, that inner turmoil. This is karma in action. Your trust, your openness, your vulnerability, all of it is now part of the greater flow of energy in the world. And in the world of karma, it always comes back. What you put out, you will eventually receive, whether it is peace or disturbance, comfort or regret. At the same time, let's not forget that karma doesn't just affect you negatively when things go wrong. There are moments when sharing a secret, sharing a vulnerable truth, can lead to healing and understanding. When you speak from a place of genuine intention and share with someone who respects and values your words, you are not only protecting your peace, but you are also creating positive karma for yourself. You are building a relationship based on trust, respect, and mindfulness. And that, too, sends ripples out into the world, ripples of peace, of kindness, of trust that can return to you in ways that enrich your life. But how do we know who is worthy of such trust? How can we be sure that the person we share with will not betray us or misuse our words? This is where mindfulness becomes key. It is not about closing ourselves off from others or becoming paranoid about every word we say. It's about developing awareness. When we approach our interactions with mindfulness, we can gauge the energy of the people around us. We can discern who is safe to confide in, who will handle our words with care, and respect. In Buddhism, the teachings remind us of the importance of awareness in our actions. It is not just about knowing what we share, but understanding why we share it and how it will affect our energy and the energy of others. When we share something deeply personal, it is an exchange of energy. If we are mindful of the potential consequences, we can better protect our peace and ensure that we are not caught in the web of negative karma. This is not to say that we should never share or keep everything to ourselves. Sharing can be a beautiful and transformative act, one that creates connection, understanding, and healing. But the teachings of Buddhism encourage us to share thoughtfully, to choose our words with care, and to remain mindful of how our actions and words ripple through the world. When we act with awareness, we are more likely to create positive karma and avoid the harmful effects of oversharing. Let's think about it from another perspective. The Buddha himself, in his teachings, often spoke of the importance of being mindful in every aspect of life, including speech. In the Dhammapada, a collection of the Buddha's sayings, there's a verse that says, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." This reminds us that the true value of our words lies not in their quantity or in their ability to impress others, but in their ability to bring peace, understanding, and harmony. In the context of secrets and shared information, this means that when we speak with intention, when we choose our words carefully, we are contributing to the peace of the world, and we are also protecting our own peace. But when we speak recklessly, when we share without considering the consequences, we are inviting unnecessary disturbance into our lives and potentially into the lives of others. The key is mindfulness, the ability to be fully present and aware of the power our words carry. When we share something deeply personal, we should ask ourselves, will this contribute to peace? Is this the right time to share this? Am I sharing this because it will bring healing, or am I sharing it out of need or insecurity? These questions help guide us in our interactions and ensure that we are acting in ways that align with the peaceful, mindful life we seek. At its core, karma teaches us that everything is connected. Every action, every word, every thought we have sends energy into the world, and that energy is not lost. It will come back to us, either in ways we can see or in ways we cannot. By being mindful of how we share our words and our secrets, we can ensure that we are not creating negative karma for ourselves, but instead contributing to a life of peace, trust, and understanding. In the end, it all comes down to the simple yet profound understanding that every action has consequences. When we speak, we are not just expressing our thoughts. We are shaping the course of our lives and the lives of others. Let us choose our words wisely, speak with intention, and share our secrets only with those who will honor them as the treasures they truly are. By doing so, we not only protect ourselves from the weight of regret, but we also create positive ripples that can bring peace, joy, and harmony into the world around us. The self in the shadows, protecting your inner world. In life, there are things you keep close, hidden in the quietest corners of your heart. These are the thoughts, dreams, and parts of you that are most personal, most fragile. They are not meant for everyone's eyes or ears. Yet, we live in a world with a constant pressure to share, to express ourselves, often pulls us to reveal more than we should. It's as if there's a force, almost invisible, urging us to open up and share every little detail of our lives. But what happens when we do? What happens when we let someone else into those sacred spaces we've kept for ourselves? The truth is, when we expose our innermost thoughts and feelings to others, we risk losing the purity of our own self. The Buddhist teachings tell us that we should protect our inner world from unnecessary disturbances. The self, in Buddhism, is not just an idea, it is a sanctuary. It's the place where our thoughts, emotions, and experiences come together, creating the unique individual we are. But the moment we let others too deeply into that space, we can become vulnerable to their influence, good or bad. Think about a time when you shared something private with someone, and later you felt that they didn't value it the way you thought they would. Perhaps they misunderstood, misjudged, or use your words against you. It's a painful experience, isn't it? We often forget that our inner world is fragile, and it's not always wise to let anyone in just because they ask. There's wisdom in silence, a kind of strength that can only be found when we learn to protect our most vulnerable parts. The mind, in its natural state, is full of thoughts, some pure, some clouded with attachment, and some tainted by fear or desire. Buddhism teaches that we should not simply empty our minds or let them wander aimlessly. Instead, we must train our minds to discern what deserves to be shared and what must remain within. Silence, in this sense, is not a weakness, but a shield, a way to protect the clarity of your own mind. When we share too much with others, especially those who may not understand or respect the weight of our words, we risk losing touch with who we really are. Our self-identity becomes diluted, influenced by external opinions and judgments. This is why it is essential to maintain boundaries between yourself and others. It's not about building walls, but about ensuring that the core of who you are remains untouched by the outside world. If you share everything, you risk losing the essence of your inner peace. Your thoughts become scattered, your emotions tangled, and you begin to lose your sense of clarity. Buddhism encourages us to practice discernment in all things, especially in our speech. It is not enough to simply speak when we feel the urge to be heard. The true art of communication lies in knowing when silence is more powerful than words. By keeping certain things within, we allow ourselves the space to process, to reflect, and to grow. It is said that the mind is like a garden. If you let anyone wander through it, they may trample over the delicate flowers you've carefully nurtured, or they may plant seeds that are not in alignment with your own values. But if you tend to it with care and respect, only allowing the right people in, you create a space where your inner peace can flourish. Similarly, your thoughts are like the seeds in this garden. Some will bloom into wisdom, while others will remain unspoken, protected from the outside world. Think about the times when you've shared something and later regretted it. What did you lose? Perhaps it was your peace of mind or your trust in the person you shared it with. There's a reason why we hold certain things close, because they are valuable and not everyone deserves access to them. This is not about being secretive or closed off. It's about self-preservation and self-respect. By protecting your inner world, you create the space needed to grow without the fear of being misjudged or misunderstood. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is that attachment leads to suffering. When we become too attached to our need to be understood by others, we open ourselves up to disappointment. Others may not always understand us the way we want them to. And when we seek validation or acceptance through sharing too much, we are setting ourselves up for possible emotional pain. This is why Buddhism teaches us to practice non-attachment, not just in our possessions, but in our words, our thoughts, and even our relationships. We're not responsible for how others perceive us. Our responsibility is to maintain the integrity of our own inner world. By doing so, we protect our peace and nurture the qualities of wisdom, compassion, and understanding. The more we share with others, the more we risk losing our own sense of self. The true essence of who we are lies in the quiet moments, the thoughts we keep to ourselves, and the silence that allows us to reconnect with our inner peace. You see, the key is not to isolate yourself from others, but to build the wisdom to know when to share and when to keep things within. There is beauty in silence, strength in restraint. Buddhism teaches that when we speak, we should do so with intention and mindfulness. Every word should be measured and every thought considered. By doing so, we avoid unnecessary suffering and maintain control over our inner world. So protect yourself. Protect your inner world. Not everyone needs to know your every thought, your every feeling, or your every secret. Some things are meant to remain within, cherished and guarded by your own heart. In doing so, you will find greater peace, greater clarity, and greater connection with your true self. You will walk the path of wisdom, unburdened by the weight of words that should never have been spoken. Let your inner world be a sanctuary, a place where peace resides and where your true essence can flourish without the interference of the outside world. Intentions unveiled. The subtle dangers of oversharing. There's a quiet but powerful truth that we often overlook. Our intentions behind sharing something can either nourish or damage our peace. You see, when we speak, we are not just expressing thoughts. We are revealing parts of our inner world. In the moment we share something with others, we give them a piece of our being. The question is, are we aware of our intentions when we share? Are we speaking out of need, or are we speaking with a pure heart? Think about the times you've shared something. Perhaps you told someone about a challenge you were facing, or a joy that was too big to hold in. Sometimes our intention might be to seek help, to connect, or to bond. But there are moments when we speak, not from a place of love or wisdom, but from a place of insecurity, fear, or even a desire for validation. And in those moments, sharing becomes more about fulfilling our own need for attention, rather than truly connecting with the other person. Buddhism teaches us that our actions and words should come from a place of awareness. When we're mindful of why we are sharing something, we can avoid falling into the trap of oversharing. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of right speech. This doesn't just mean saying the right things. It also means understanding why we are saying them in the first place. Is it to lift others, or is it to fulfill some hidden desire within ourselves? Let's take a simple example. You've just had a small victory in your life. Maybe you've completed a project or achieved something meaningful. It's a moment of success, and naturally, you want to share it. But here's where the intention behind the sharing matters. Are you sharing because you genuinely want to celebrate with others? Or are you sharing because you want others to acknowledge you, to tell you how great you are? The intention behind your words will determine whether the exchange brings peace or unrest. When we share from a place of insecurity, we are unknowingly inviting comparison. We open ourselves up to judgments, both ours and others. We may start to measure our worth by how others respond to what we've shared, and that can lead to feelings of inadequacy or even resentment when we don't receive the response we were hoping for. It's a dangerous cycle that many fall into, and it all starts with our intentions. In Buddhism, there's a teaching that our desires and attachments can cause suffering. We often attach ourselves to the approval of others, to the recognition of our efforts. This attachment becomes a chain, linking us to a cycle of needing external validation. And when we share our thoughts or achievements with the hope of receiving that validation, we are feeding this attachment. It's not just the act of sharing that causes us harm. It's the deep, unspoken need for something in return that we don't always recognize in ourselves. But here's where the practice of mindfulness comes in. If we can learn to observe our intentions, to understand why we feel the urge to share, we can choose to speak from a place of clarity rather than need. When we speak from a pure heart, we can trust that our words will land with the right person at the right time, and there won't be any expectation attached. The conversation becomes about the exchange, not about getting something in return. This kind of sharing creates connection, not a cycle of dependence. Let's reflect on this. Have you ever felt frustrated because someone didn't respond to your sharing the way you expected? Perhaps you felt disappointed or even hurt. This feeling doesn't come from the other person's response. It comes from the expectation you had, the attachment you had to a particular outcome. When we let go of the need for others to respond in a specific way, we free ourselves from disappointment. We allow our words to be a gift, not a transaction. In Buddhist teachings, there's an understanding that the mind is often clouded by desire. We may desire to be seen, heard, or validated. This desire is not inherently bad, but can lead to suffering if we are not mindful of it. Our attachment to these desires distorts the way we share, turning what could be an authentic exchange into a performance. And that performance, even if it's subtle, can create distance between us and others. We might find ourselves feeling isolated, despite the fact that we are sharing our lives with people around us. The truth is, when we speak with an attachment to an outcome, whether it's praise, recognition, or simply reassurance, we are not truly sharing. We are bargaining. We are exchanging our words for something we hope to receive. And in that moment, the purity of our words is lost. Instead of being a tool for connection, our speech becomes a way to fulfill our own desires. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you shared something deeply personal with someone, and why did you share it? Was it because you wanted to connect, or was there something you were hoping to gain from it? There's no judgment in this question. It's simply a way to bring awareness to the hidden motives that drive much of our communication. By acknowledging these desires, we can begin to take conscious control over them. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we begin to notice these patterns. We begin to see that the urge to share something doesn't always come from a place of clarity or truth. Sometimes it comes from fear, loneliness, or the desire to be understood. When we recognize these emotions in ourselves, we can choose not to act on them. Instead of sharing something to fill an inner void, we can choose silence, or we can choose to share with a deeper, more compassionate intention. In Buddhism, there's great emphasis on understanding the nature of our desires. Desires are not bad in themselves. They're a part of being human. But when we are unaware of how these desires influence our speech, we can easily slip into patterns that cause more harm than good. This is why the Buddha encouraged us to be aware of our desires, to be mindful of the attachment we have to our words. By doing so, we can free ourselves from the cycle of needing others' approval and create space for true, meaningful connection. When we can share without needing anything in return, without expectation, we experience a profound shift. Our relationships become more genuine, and our inner peace becomes less dependent on the external world. We stop living for validation, and instead, we start living for truth. And in that truth, there's no need to overshare. Our words become clear, deliberate, and full of purpose. Ultimately, the art of sharing wisely comes down to this simple truth. Speak from a place of love, not need. Share because you have something meaningful to offer, not because you need something in return. This mindset will protect your peace, and it will help you cultivate relationships built on trust, not expectation. The more we practice this, the less we will find ourselves regretting our words. And the more we speak with intention, the more our words will serve us and those around us in ways we never imagined. Mindfulness over mouth, practicing thoughtful restraint. In the quiet spaces of your life, there's a profound power that goes unnoticed by many, the power of silence. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it is the presence of mindfulness. To practice mindful silence is to become aware of the weight our words carry. Every word we speak creates a ripple, a vibration that touches not only our own lives but also the lives of others. But how often do we pause before we speak? How often do we stop and ask, is this the right thing to say? Is this the right time? In Buddhism, mindfulness isn't just about meditation on a cushion. It is an active, living practice that influences everything, including our speech. We often speak without thinking, without considering the consequences. Yet, our words can either uplift or destroy. They can bring peace or bring discord. Think for a moment about a time when you said something in haste, maybe out of anger or frustration, and later wished you could take it back. That is the power of speech, but it is also a lesson in restraint. When we speak without mindfulness, we allow our emotions to control our words. We are driven by impulses, not wisdom. But when we take a moment to pause, to breathe, we give ourselves the space to respond rather than react. Imagine how many conflicts could be avoided if we simply paused before speaking. This is the essence of practicing mindfulness in speech. In Buddhism, this is not just advice, it is a way of life. The Buddha taught that speech should be right and truthful. He said, "Speak only that which is true, speak only that which is helpful, speak only that which is kind." If we spoke like this, imagine how different the world would be. We would not only protect ourselves from the consequences of careless words, but we would also contribute to the well-being of others. Think about it. When you speak with kindness and truth, you create a ripple of positive energy, a wave that touches everyone it reaches. But mindfulness in speech goes beyond kindness. It's about understanding the power of timing. Words have their moment. There are times when silence is far more powerful than anything we could say. In many situations, offering a kind smile, a gentle touch, or simply being present without speaking can be more healing than words can ever be. Silence is not empty. It is full of potential. It is in silence that we can truly listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. And in that silence, we can discover the wisdom that will guide us to speak with clarity and purpose. Buddhism teaches us that the mouth is not just an instrument for communication, but a tool for creating harmony or discord. When we speak without thought, without awareness, we risk creating unnecessary conflict. When we speak with mindfulness, we create peace. There's a story of a monk who, while traveling, encountered a person who was angry and upset. The traveler was full of complaints and was speaking harshly about the world. The monk did not respond immediately. He stood quietly, listening, but he didn't interrupt or offer any opinion. After some time, the traveler's anger began to subside. The monk then gently said, "Your words are like wind. They pass through, but the earth remains unmoved." The monk's silence was the answer. He showed through his restraint that sometimes words are unnecessary. It is not always what we say, but how we are present that makes the most difference. This is a profound lesson in mindfulness. Knowing when not to speak is as important as knowing when to speak. So, what does this mean for us in our daily lives? It means that we need to become more aware of our words. The next time you feel compelled to speak, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this kind? Is this necessary? If the answer to any of those questions is no, then perhaps silence is the best response. It may seem difficult at first, especially in moments of strong emotion, but the practice of mindful speech will bring peace, both to you and to those around you. When you practice mindful speech, you also cultivate a deep respect for others. You learn to value silence, to understand that not every moment calls for words. This respect for silence is something the Buddha taught. Through silence, we listen more deeply to the world, to others, and to ourselves. In silence, we find clarity. In silence, we can hear our true thoughts, our deeper intentions. Mindful speech is not just about avoiding harm. It is about bringing positive energy into the world. It is a way of living that brings peace, not just to our own hearts, but to everyone we come into contact with. Imagine the impact we could have on the world if every conversation was infused with mindfulness. What if, instead of gossiping, complaining, or speaking in anger, we chose to speak words that uplift, that heal, that connect? What kind of world would we live in if each of us used our words as tools for peace? But silence is not passive. It is an act of choice. It's not about withdrawing from the world, but about choosing to engage in a way that fosters clarity, understanding, and compassion. Silence allows us to listen deeply, to understand fully, and to speak only when necessary. It teaches us patience, a vital virtue in Buddhism. As you go through your day, practice mindfulness in your speech. Notice how often we speak without thinking, how often our words cause harm unintentionally. Pay attention to how silence can be more powerful than any response. Let your words be few, but filled with wisdom. Be like the calm, still water that reflects everything clearly without disturbance. In the end, your words will carry more weight, and your life will be more peaceful as you learn to speak only with purpose and kindness. In this practice, we also learn to respect ourselves more. We don't feel the need to share everything, to reveal all parts of ourselves. Some things are meant to remain private, held in the sacred space of our own hearts. We realize that we don't need validation or attention from others. We learn to find peace in our own company, in the quiet of our own thoughts. So, the next time you feel compelled to speak, take a moment. Breathe deeply. Ask yourself, is this the right time? Is this the right thing to say? Let your words come from a place of mindfulness, a place of love and respect for yourself and for others. When you speak with purpose and intention, your words will create ripples of peace, and your life will be a reflection of that peace. And remember, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. The tone, the timing, the energy behind your words, these all matter. In Buddhism, we learn that true speech is not just about truth, but about how that truth is delivered. It is not enough to speak the truth. We must speak it with kindness, with compassion, with the intention to heal, not harm. That is the power of mindful speech. Trust, betrayal, and the middle path. The path of life is not always a straight line. Sometimes it seems more like a series of twists and turns, with moments where we feel at peace and moments when the ground beneath us shakes. It's in these moments of vulnerability that we often face one of the most painful experiences, betrayal. In Buddhism, trust is viewed as a delicate and precious thing. It is something to be protected, not only because it connects us to others, but because it keeps our own hearts peaceful. Trust is a gift we give to others, and with it comes the silent hope that this trust will be respected. When we share a secret or a personal feeling, we are handing over a small part of ourselves to someone else. And just like any gift, there's an unspoken agreement. The gift will be cherished. Yet, how often have we experienced that feeling when someone betrays that trust? When our words are used against us, or when something we've shared is misinterpreted or spread beyond our control. Betrayal hurts because it breaks the bond of trust. It creates a ripple effect that spreads through our relationships, our emotions, and even our perception of the world. It brings confusion, anger, and sorrow, making us question not just the person who betrayed us, but ourselves as well. How could we have been so naive? What do we do wrong? Do we give too much? These questions spiral in our minds, and often they don't lead to peace. Instead, they lead to more suffering. But Buddhism teaches us that our reaction to betrayal, more than the betrayal itself, is where we have control. It is easy to become consumed by anger and resentment when someone hurts us. These emotions seem natural, almost instinctive, but holding on to them only serves to deepen our own suffering. The Buddha spoke of the poison of anger and how it infects our mind, just like poison slowly corrupts the body. Then what is anger but the refusal to accept life as it is? Is the mind rejecting reality, clinging to a desire for things to be different? When trust is broken, our instinct is often to lash out, to seek revenge, or to tell the world about the betrayal. We won't make the person who hurt us feel the same way we do. But in doing so, we end up carrying the burden of that anger, allowing it to shape our actions and our relationships. Buddhism teaches us that the way forward lies in letting go, not of our values or boundaries, but of the desire for retribution. We do not need to allow the betrayal to shape us. We do not need to carry the weight of anger and hurt. Instead, we can find refuge in the middle path, the Buddhist principle of balance. The middle path is about finding a harmonious balance between extremes. It's about not becoming so overwhelmed by emotions that we lose control, but also not suppressing them to the point where we lose our authentic feelings. The middle path teaches us how to process emotions like betrayal with wisdom and compassion, both for ourselves and for the person who has hurt us. In the case of betrayal, this might mean taking time to understand why the person acted the way they did. It doesn't mean excusing their behavior, but it does mean stepping back and seeing the situation without the lens of anger. Often, when someone betrays our trust, it comes from their own pain, their own weaknesses, or their own lack of understanding. Recognizing this doesn't justify the betrayal, but it allows us to approach the situation with compassion rather than with the desire for revenge. In practicing the middle path, we are also reminded that we are not entirely at the mercy of others. Our peace and our happiness come from within, not from external circumstances. If we place our happiness in the hands of others, then we give them the power to control our inner peace. But if we cultivate an inner source of peace through mindfulness and wisdom, no one can take it away from us. Betrayal may hurt, but it does not have to shatter our sense of self. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild, but that doesn't mean we should shut ourselves off from others. Instead, we must learn to trust in a wiser way. We can choose to trust, not blindly, but with discernment. The Buddha's teachings remind us to examine our relationships carefully, to be mindful of where we place our trust, and to ensure that we are not clinging to expectations that will inevitably cause disappointment. When we understand that trust is a fragile thing, we are better able to appreciate it when it is given and more cautious when it is placed in others. The middle path also asks us to reflect on our own actions. Have we ever been the one to betray someone else's trust? It's easy to focus on the ways we've been wronged, but Buddhism urges us to also look inward, to examine our own behavior, and to make amends where we have caused harm. True peace comes not from blaming others, but from taking responsibility for our own actions. We can learn to build trust through our own words and deeds, and to foster relationships that are grounded in honesty, kindness, and respect. Betrayal, while painful, can also be a powerful teacher. It shows us the value of trust, the importance of self-awareness, and the need for compassion. It teaches us that we are not invulnerable, but that we have the strength to heal and grow from difficult experiences. In this way, the hurt of betrayal can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and others, helping us to develop wisdom that will protect us from future suffering. When we embrace the middle path, we let go of the extremes of anger and resignation. We stop swinging between the desire for revenge and the fear of being hurt again. Instead, we find peace in the acceptance that betrayal is a part of life, a part of our human experience. And while it may cause pain, it does not define us. We are not our betrayals. We are not our hurt. We are, as the Buddha taught, beings with the capacity for transformation, for healing, and for profound peace. Through this understanding, we are able to move forward, not in a state of denial, but with the wisdom to protect our hearts while still remaining open to the world. We no longer carry the weight of bitterness, but instead, we carry the strength of wisdom, knowing that no one can steal our peace without our permission. And when we walk the middle path, we are free from the chains of betrayal, free to trust, and free to live with an open heart once again. The Buddhist teachings remind us that life is about balance. Trust is not about giving everything away, nor is it about building walls around our hearts. It is about finding that delicate balance where we can protect ourselves while still being open to the world. In doing so, we walk a path of wisdom, compassion, and true freedom. Inner peace versus outer validation, a hidden conflict. Sit down, my friend. Breathe in. Now breathe out. Let your shoulders relax. Let your thoughts slow down. Today, we talk about something many people don't even realize they struggle with. Something small, something quiet, but powerful, like a seed planted deep inside the heart. It is the need to be seen, the need to be heard, the need for others to know what we think, what we feel, and what we have done, the need for validation. And though it feels natural, this need can take us far away from peace. You see, there's a kind of war that happens inside every human being. On one side is inner peace, quiet, steady, unshaken by praise or blame. On the other side is outer validation, loud, always reaching, always hungry. Why do we speak so quickly about our dreams, our plans, our struggles, our secrets? Because we want others to see us, to say, "You matter," to say, "You're doing well." But when we depend on that, we become like a leaf blown by the wind. If people approve, we feel high. If they don't, we feel low. Our peace becomes something they control. In Buddhism, we are taught to look within, to find stillness not in the words of others, but in the silence of our own mind. This silence is not empty. It is full of understanding, full of freedom. There's a story we tell of a monk who walked through a village every day, head bowed, silent. People mocked him. Some threw stones. Others laughed. But he walked on calmly. One day, a young man shouted at him, "Why do you not defend yourself? Why do you not speak?" The monk turned to him and said gently, "If you offer me a gift and I do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" That is peace. That is the power of not needing approval. But today, many of us cannot bear the silence. We post our thoughts the moment they arise. We tell our stories before they are ready to be heard. We speak of our goals before they are born. Not because we are bad, but because we are afraid. Afraid to be invisible. Afraid to be forgotten. This fear makes us rush to share what should be kept inside. It is like cooking rice and lifting the lid again and again, too early. The rice never gets cooked. When you share your plans too soon, when you speak your hopes too quickly, they lose strength. They leak away. In Zen, we say, the flower does not announce itself to the bee. The bee comes because the flower is full. Think about that. When you are full of inner peace, when your thoughts are complete, when your heart is steady, people will come to you. You don't have to go shouting for them to see you. But this is not easy. The world trains you to seek attention. It trains you to look at numbers, likes, views, hearts. You start to believe those numbers tell you who you are. But those numbers are shadows. They vanish. The real you is deeper, quiet, still, strong. Have you noticed? Some people share everything, yet still feel empty. Others say little, yet when they speak, people listen. That is not magic. That is the power of restraint. It is the strength of someone who no longer needs others to fill their cup. I'm not telling you to be silent forever, but I'm asking you to choose your silence wisely. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it brings truth, or because I want someone to clap for me? Am I opening up because I must, or because I'm afraid to be alone with my own thoughts? Every time you speak, you give away energy. Every word is a part of you. Do not throw it away like seeds into the wind. Hold it. Care for it. Wait. Speak only when your words are ripe. Only when silence is no longer enough. And there is a deeper truth. When you stop needing validation, you become powerful. Not loud, but calm. Not famous, but grounded. When you no longer chase praise, people feel drawn to your peace. They may not understand it, but they will respect it. Buddha taught us, the wise are not moved by praise or blame. Why? Because they have found their center. That center does not move with other people's opinions. It is rooted deep, like a tree that stands firm through every storm. So I ask you now, do you want your peace to be yours or to belong to others? Do you want your spirit to rest in stillness or be shaken every time someone approves or disapproves of you? You must decide, because peace is not something you find outside. It is something you build inside, slowly, quietly, brick by brick, moment by moment. And sometimes the most powerful act is to remain silent, to let the truth grow in silence until it is ready to bloom. Let go of the need to prove yourself. Let go of the need to be praised. Walk your path and let the world notice, not because you shouted, but because you shined. Now breathe again. Breathe deeply. Do you feel that quiet? That is where peace begins. And that is where your true power lies. The ego's whisper, sharing to be seen. Sit down for a moment. Let the noise of the world rest. Breathe deeply. I want to tell you something, not loud and dramatic, but quiet, like the wind moving through bamboo. There's something inside us, something we rarely talk about. It's not evil. It's not a monster. But it's very clever, very subtle. It's the ego. The ego doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It tells you, share this story, they'll be impressed. Or, tell them your struggle, they'll admire your strength. Or, reveal your secrets, they'll think you're deep and wise. At first, these thoughts don't seem dangerous. They even feel sincere. But beneath them lies a hunger, not for peace, but for attention. Not for truth, but for validation. You see, the ego wants to be seen. Not just seen, it wants to be praised, understood, admired. It tells us that if we just share more, speak more, reveal more, we will finally feel enough. And so we do. We tell others about our dreams before they're ready. We reveal our weaknesses, hoping someone will comfort us. We share our plans, our pain, even our spiritual progress. Not always for connection, but to be noticed. But here's the lesson. The ego is never satisfied. No matter how much you share, it will want more. No matter how much attention you receive, it will feel less. And every time you feed it, you become more distant from your true self. The quiet self that doesn't need applause to exist. That self is already whole. In Buddhism, we learn to watch the mind like a river. Thoughts come and go. Feelings rise and fall. But the ego, it lingers like a shadow, always trying to attach to something. If you are not mindful, it can attach itself to even your purest intentions. You might share your suffering to inspire others, but secretly, part of you may hope for recognition. You might speak of your growth, your healing, your journey, not because you must, but because the ego enjoys being seen as evolved. Let me tell you a story. There was once a monk who practiced in silence for many years. One day, he was invited to speak to a group of seekers. He stood in front of them, opened his mouth, but paused. Then he said, "There is peace in silence. I speak now only because I am asked, but what I have learned lives best when kept quiet." And then he said no more. The audience sat confused and then deeply moved. They realized his silence carried more truth than any clever teaching could. There is great power in not sharing everything, not out of fear, not from hiding, but because some things, when protected, grow stronger. A flower does not open all at once. It blooms slowly, in stillness, under the right light. In the same way, your insights, your plans, your healing, these are sacred. They need time and silence to deepen. When we share only to be seen, we risk weakening what is still forming inside us. It's like opening a pot before the meal is ready. It lets the heat escape. Some things are not meant to be shown right away. They are meant to be lived. Once they're strong enough, they will speak through your presence, not just your words. Now ask yourself gently, when I share, why do I share? Is it from love? From truth? From connection? Or is it because I want to be seen? This is not a question to punish yourself with, but to awaken yourself. When the ego whispers, don't hate it. Just recognize it. Smile at it. And then choose silence if that feels more true. Many times in life, you'll walk alone. Not because no one understands you, but because your path is yours. The deepest realizations often cannot be explained. The purest growth often happens in private. This is the beauty of it. You do not need to be seen to be real. You do not need to be heard to be true. The ego will say, tell them everything. Let them see your light. But the wise part of you will know, your light shines brightest when you protect its flame. Do not rush to speak. Do not rush to share. Let your life speak first. Let your energy carry your truth. Let your peace be louder than your words. Sometimes when we feel unseen, unheard, we think that telling more of our story will fill the emptiness. But have you noticed? Often it doesn't. It only makes us feel more exposed. That's because the emptiness inside can only be filled by silence, by stillness, by being okay with who you are even when no one is watching. That is where real power lies. Buddhism teaches us to release the craving for recognition. It says, don't speak to impress. Speak to express truth. Don't reveal to gain something. Reveal only when the time is right, and only if it brings peace. You are not small because you remain silent. You are not weak because you don't share every emotion. You are not invisible because you keep things to yourself. In fact, sometimes that is the greatest strength, to be so full within that you don't need the world to fill you. So let your journey be sacred. Let your silence be strength. And let the ego's whisper be just that, a whisper. You do not have to listen. You do not have to obey. Just keep walking your path with awareness. In time, the desire to be seen fades. And what's left is peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't need an audience. And when that peace comes, when you no longer need to share to feel real, you will understand something beautiful. You've always been enough, exactly as you are. Speech as sacred. The Buddhist ethics of verbal discipline. In the quiet spaces of your life, have you ever noticed how words can either build or break? Words are not just sounds or letters strung together. They carry energy, they carry intention. They hold power. The Buddha spoke often about speech. In his teachings, he emphasized the importance of what we say, how we say it, and the intent behind it. You see, speech is sacred in Buddhism. It's not just about communicating. It's about creating harmony, truth, and peace in the world around you. We all know that words can hurt. A careless remark, an unthoughtful insult, or even a harsh tone can leave wounds far deeper than we realize. But what about words that are meant to uplift? What about words that offer comfort, kindness, or truth? The power of speech is not just in the words themselves, but in the energy we put behind them. That energy can either be one of love or one of harm. Imagine you're sitting by a calm lake, the water's still and peaceful. Now, think about what happens when you throw a stone into that water. The ripple effects spread outward, disturbing the calm. The stone is like a word spoken in anger or haste. The ripples are the effects of that word on the world around you. The calm was disturbed, and sometimes it takes a long time for the water to settle again, just as it can take a long time for relationships and hearts to heal after careless words are spoken. In Buddhism, there's a teaching called right speech, part of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's a practice of speaking truthfully, kindly, and appropriately. Right speech teaches us to speak in ways that are beneficial, not only to others but also to ourselves. When you speak with the intention to bring peace, to bring clarity, to bring understanding, you are walking in harmony with the Dharma. You are walking the path toward enlightenment. But what does it mean to speak with the right intention? It's more than just choosing the right words. It's about being mindful of the way those words will affect others. When you speak, do you consider how your words might impact the listener? Do you speak out of compassion, or are your words rooted in ego, in the desire to be heard, to be seen, to be validated? The Buddhist teachings remind us that speech rooted in ego causes suffering, both for the speaker and the listener. Think about this for a moment. How often do you find yourself speaking without thinking? We all do it. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, sometimes out of frustration, and sometimes simply because it feels good to vent. But Buddhism teaches us that every word has consequences. Even those small, seemingly insignificant remarks that slip out without thought have the potential to cause harm. They create karma, just as much as our actions do. And karma doesn't disappear just because we've forgotten about it. The ripples from those words can reach places we never intended, affecting people in ways we can't always see. Now, I'm sure many of you have had the experience of saying something in the heat of the moment, something you later regret. We all have. And how does it feel when that happens? We may try to apologize, but the words are already out there, and the damage is done. That is the power of speech. Once those words leave your mouth, you cannot take them back. It's a simple, yet profound truth. And the more we practice mindfulness in our speech, the more we begin to understand the responsibility that comes with it. But there's another side to this, something that's even more subtle. Silence. Silence, when used wisely, can be just as powerful as speech. There are times when saying nothing at all is the wisest choice. In Buddhism, silence is seen not as the absence of speech, but as the presence of deep understanding. Sometimes, the best way to honor the other person is simply to listen. Sometimes, the best way to honor yourself is to keep your thoughts to yourself, especially when speaking might create harm or confusion. The Buddha himself often chose silence when words were unnecessary. There is a story where a man came to him and asked a series of challenging questions. Instead of answering with words, the Buddha simply remained silent. The silence spoke volumes. In that silence, the man realized the answers for himself. This is the essence of right speech, not just speaking when necessary, but knowing when silence is more valuable than any word. One of the most difficult practices for many people is the discipline of holding back. We live in a world where everyone is shouting for attention, where everyone is speaking their minds, and where there's always a constant stream of conversation. In this noise, it's easy to forget the sacredness of speech. But if we could all practice more mindful speech, if we could learn to use our words for peace and healing instead of conflict and division, the world would be a far more harmonious place. And this discipline starts with small steps. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it going to help? Or will it cause harm? These simple questions can guide us to a higher level of awareness. It's easy to speak in haste, but the Buddha teaches us that patience in speech leads to wisdom. When we pause before we speak, we give ourselves time to reflect on our intentions. And in that pause, we create space for understanding. True mastery of speech, according to Buddhism, isn't about speaking perfectly or never making a mistake. It's about being aware of the impact our words have, both in the moment and in the long term. It's about understanding that what we say has the power to create peace or to stir conflict. And it's about recognizing that silence, at times, is the most profound and powerful form of communication. As we continue to walk the path of wisdom, we come to understand that our words are not just expressions of our thoughts, but reflections of our inner state. When we are calm, centered, and at peace within ourselves, our words will naturally reflect that peace. But when we are agitated, angry, or lost in ego, our words will carry that energy too. So, we must strive to cultivate inner peace, for that is the foundation of right speech. In the end, what matters most is not the words we speak, but the way we speak them. Our words can either uplift or destroy. They can bring understanding or confusion, and they can create harmony or cause division. Buddhism teaches us to speak with compassion, to choose our words carefully, and to use speech as a tool for bringing about peace, both within ourselves and in the world around us. If we can learn to practice right speech, we will not only improve our relationships, but also bring ourselves closer to the true wisdom that lies at the heart of the Buddhist teachings. It's a simple practice, but it requires discipline and mindfulness. And as we cultivate this discipline, we begin to see the world in a different light, one where our words no longer control us, but where we control the energy they bring. So, the next time you're about to speak, pause. Reflect. Ask yourself, is this speech beneficial? Is it kind? And above all, is it true? In doing so, you will find that speech can be a sacred act, one that leads you closer to the peace and wisdom that the Buddha spoke of so long ago. Transcending the need to tell, cultivating inner strength. In the stillness of the moment, there lies a question that each one of us must ask ourselves. Why do we feel the need to tell others everything? Why is there this urge, almost like a force within us, that pushes us to speak out, even when silence could offer more peace? We've all been there, haven't we? The need to be heard, the desire to be understood, the craving to share our deepest thoughts, experiences, and feelings. But have you ever paused long enough to ask, what does it cost us to share so much? What do we lose when we share more than we should? The problem is, once something is spoken, it can never be unsaid. No matter how careful we are, once those words leave our lips, they take on a life of their own. They begin to change shape, take form, and often move in directions we never intended. This is where the true power of silence comes in. And this is where Buddhism offers us profound wisdom. Buddha, in his deep understanding of the mind, taught that much of human suffering arises from our attachment to desires, including the desire to be heard, understood, or acknowledged by others. It's not wrong to want connection, but the key is understanding where this need comes from. Is it rooted in true connection, or is it simply a craving of the ego for recognition? Is it that you need to be seen, or is it that you're afraid of being overlooked? When we share everything, our troubles, our secrets, our joys, our fears, we often reveal more than we realize. And in revealing too much, we open ourselves to judgment, to misinterpretation, to gossip, and sometimes to betrayal. The words we speak can carry weight far beyond our control, and once they are out in the world, they have the power to shape how others see us and how we see ourselves. But there's a secret to this. In silence, there is strength. In the moments where we choose not to speak, we cultivate inner resilience. Buddhism teaches us that we are not our words. We are not the stories we tell others about ourselves. Who we truly are is much deeper than anything we could ever express through language. There's an entire world of peace and understanding inside of us, a world that doesn't need to be spoken out loud to exist. Imagine this. There's a mountain. At the base, the wind blows fiercely, making noise, shaking the leaves, stirring the earth. But as we climb higher, the wind quiets. The air becomes stiller, clearer. The higher you go, the less noise there is, and the more peace you find. The mountain doesn't speak to announce its presence. It simply is. And in its quiet stillness, It radiates strength and majesty. Similarly, the more we learn to be still, the less we feel the need to speak. We learn that we can stand in our own power without needing to announce it to the world. In the silence, we are not invisible. We're simply letting our actions, our presence, our being speak louder than words ever could. This is not to say that we should never speak, never share, or never communicate. Far from it. But what Buddha encourages is mindfulness in our speech. Speak only when necessary. Speak with intention. And when you do speak, do so with a heart that is pure, a heart that seeks connection, not recognition. Speak in ways that uplift and bring peace, not in ways that stir the pot or fan the flames of unnecessary conflict. In many ways, the more we talk, the more we complicate our lives. We draw unnecessary attention to ourselves, attracting energy that may not be conducive to our peace. We share things that can become burdensome, not just to ourselves, but to others. And in this constant sharing, we lose sight of the deeper truths that lie within us, the truths that need no validation from the outside world. Buddhism teaches us to transcend the need for constant affirmation and validation from others. In the stillness of our thoughts, in the quiet of our hearts, we begin to see ourselves clearly. We don't need the world's approval to be whole. We don't need to tell every detail of our lives for our existence to have meaning. In fact, it's in our silence that we find the truest form of self-expression.